game, going your own way. They talk pills and plates. They complain, they blame. Fake it till you make it. I just don't get it. A man doesn't need to lie to meet women. He just needs to learn how to spit flavor in her eyes and in her ears. Thanos broke down the game when he said, as long as there are those who remember what was, there will always be those who cannot accept what can be. Even in darkness, a man can find light. Sometimes the world doesn't need a group of fake heroes teaching lies. Sometimes the world needs a group of anti-heroes.
What the hell? We got stuff playing in the background. I don't know what the hell's going on. But anyway, we are back on top, right on track. Anyway, RJD here. Listen, still a little under the weather, so we're going to try and figure this out as best we can. So please hit the like button on your way in. Hopefully everybody's having themselves a good day. 2 more days to the end of the year. So hit the like button. Rashonology on YouTube. Hit the like button. Subscribe to the channel. All that. We're going to follow up on the New York police chief, or former police chief, who is accused of sex for overtime. And we're going to follow up on this and see what is going on, because his lawyer has spoken out. Now, I think that he has been forced to resign. I'm not sure, but I think that he has resigned, and now he's going to sit up here and fight. So let's see what he has to say.
By Lieutenant Quatisha
Now,
Epps
I do have it
against Chief Madry.
Fast.
Those allegations incled
so
sexual abuse,
get this right here, because I
taking
have it a
advantage
little
of
fast.
her fragile situation.
We don't want to sit here and wait 50 bazillion years to get through it. So let's see.
And using overtime to pay for sexual favors. We can tell you now, those allegations are a lie.
Okay.
They're not true.
We're good.
We deny every aspect of them. We'll tell you right now that Lieutenant Epps, since October of this year, has been under investigation by the Internal Affairs Bureau of the NYPD for putting in for overtime she never completed. So she's under investigation for stealing time.
So first things first, this woman is already under investigation for potentially, allegedly stealing time. So already her credibility is in question. Now, we're not going to sit up here and say, oh, it doesn't matter, because if we're talking about a sex crime and all this other stuff, alleged. So we're not going to sit up here and equate one thing with the other. But we have already established that she is under attack from IAB in the New York City Police Department because allegedly she was stealing time. So how does this all tie in? Let's see.
And putting in for overtime that she never worked. Now, Lieutenant Epps got caught with her hand in the cookie jar and is trying to deflect her wrongdoing by making these allegations against Chief Madry in the hopes that she'll get away with part or all of her scheme.
Okay.
However, the truth is, Lieutenant Epps had a consensual adult relationship, albeit for a short time, with Jeff.
Okay, so they had relations. Got it. Consensual relations, that's established. Okay.
And we have tons of evidence by way of text messages, photographs, videos, phone records, and X-rated and racy videos and photographs from Lieutenant Epps, who is a self-professed swinger.
Okay.
And we have all this evidence because she sent it to Chief Madry in her attempts to have him begin a relationship with her.
Okay, so there's a lot to unpack here. So, huge L. Huge L. So, allegedly, now, what people do in their bedroom is what they do in their bedroom. Is nobody else's business, and I ain't here to speak on that. But in regards to this case, allegedly, they are saying, I got all the records, I got all the proof. We fooled around, but it was consensual, and she's a swinger. And if I'm not mistaken, if you're a swinger, that means you and your partner and somebody else and their partner, and y'all swap partners, and you fool around in the bedroom with each other's partner, with whoever you feel comfortable with, and it's all consensual, and it's all a thing, and it's not a problem. Anybody could do what they want to do in their own bedroom. But if I'm not mistaken, that's what that is when people swap partners and all that. So she probably has a partner, and she likes to, she does what she does, and she likes to, fool around with other people. There's nothing wrong with that. But what he is saying, what his lawyer is saying, is that, listen, I got the records to prove this was a consensual thing. There was no wrongdoing. Yeah, we fooled around, but it was consensual. And I got text records, phone records, and racy, raunchy videos, X-rated videos to prove it. Because she sent them to me, trying to get me to take it down. That's what he's saying.
Now, going to the overtime aspect of this case, we want to set the record straight so that everyone understands how overtime works in the NYPD. There is a system of checks and balances in place so that overtime can't be stolen. But let me tell you right now, Chief Madry is not a part of that checks and balance system. Chief Madry manages the day-to-day operations of 33,500 police officers in their fight on crime. Okay? Now, when a police officer or a member of the NYPD puts in for overtime, they have to fill out what's called a slip.
Okay, got to fill out an overtime
Get
slip.
better than market returns.
Oh, come on, y'all. Hit me with the ad. Hit the like button, y'all. Hit the like button while this ad goes through. All right. So they got to fill out an overtime slip to get OT.
Be signed by a supervisor.
And it has to be signed by a supervisor.
That supervisor is never a chief.
The supervisor is never a chief. That's an L. So allegedly, remember the video I did last week, this woman was getting like 150 plus bands of OT. Like in dollars. That's how much money she made in overtime. Like over $100,000 in overtime. Like she doubled her base pay in overtime. So if the chief wasn't signing off on that, because he's a chief, he can't sign off, then how is this sex for overtime when he can't even sign off on her overtime? So how can she say, oh, he made me have sex with him because he made me have sex with him in exchange for overtime? Because if I'm not mistaken, that is what she was alleging when I did the video last week. So now the lawyer is like, how could it be sex for overtime when the chief can't even approve the overtime? That's number one. And number two, if the chief wasn't approving it, then who was approving it? Because it got to be approved by somebody. And if it wasn't the chief, then who was it? I don't like this. And as soon as, I don't know. Let me wait. Let's see.
There are people within chief's offices who are tasked with making sure that slips are appropriate and have to be approved. And that's where you see the bottom where they sign it. And here is the back of it.
That's the back.
Where a commanding officer has to approve it.
Okay.
Jeff had a commanding officer of the chief of the department's office. He is not a commanding officer. Okay? Jeff never approves, assigns, or gives overtime.
Okay.
Lots of people in the chief of the department's office made overtime because they legitimately worked it. In fact, last year, there were 415 members of the NYPD that made over $100,000 in overtime.
Wait, shout out to those police officers getting to the bag. Listen, I'm not the guy that's gonna say F all the police. I love police. I have police that are very, very good. I consider friends, family in police, or that have been in police at one point in time. I got friends and family that were military. So you ain't ever gonna hear me say, oh, F the police because of what one bad cop did or did not do. But shout out to these people getting to the bag out there in the streets, risking their lives every day and making over $100,000 in OT, 415 police officers. Shout out to them getting to the bag, man. Shout out to y'all.
Okay. If there is an issue with how that's billed or approved, that's not Jeff's responsibility. Now, Lieutenant Epps in 2023 made about $200,000 in overtime. And she knew she was being investigated.
She made $200,000 in overtime. I told y'all in the last video. She was getting to the bag.
She applied,
but she knew she was getting investigated
to retire on December 16th.
But she applied to retire on September 16th, December 16th.
That same day, she attended the chief of department's Christmas party along with 40 of her colleagues, where she was smiling and thanking everyone for the cordial, congenial work environment they had. She even texted that night to the chief her gratitude. 2 days later,
they got the text.
The Internal Affairs Bureau, we believe, suspended her for the issue with her overtime, which
2 days later, they came knocking on the door right when she was about to retire.
The decision to suspend her had nothing to do with Chief Madry. He didn't have a hand in it or a decision. And now she claims she was suspended in retaliation for a complaint. But guess what? The complaint was 2 days later. So I'm not sure what complaint she's referring to. But he had nothing to do with her suspension. And we know that her suspension for improperly putting in for overtime predates any allegations that she has against the chief.
So here's what it's looking like. Now, we don't know, and we got to let things play out as always. But here's what it's looking like. She got all this OT and she was on her way out. They go to this party. Everybody's having fun. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Retirement, whatever. 2 days later, they come knocking. 2 days later, they come knocking and they're like, yo, listen, we got to put you under the investigation and we got to suspend you because we don't know where you getting all this OT from. We've been watching you for a long time. Because normally when they come knocking, now obviously it's not FBI, I'm just joking around here, but when anybody, when IAB, whoever, when they come knocking, they already probably been looking at you or they have suspicions or they've been had suspicions. And what she tried to do is she said, oh, she tried to put allegations on Mr. Chief here, but her suspension and all that predates anything that she says allegedly happened. So how could this have started over here when you're suspended? How could this have started over here when what you were talking about predates anything that you had to do with him? So that's kind of suspicious, like the lawyer was saying. So I don't know. He's plucking holes all through her story.
We know she's being investigated for January, February, March, April, May of 2023.
Okay, so she's been investigating.
Her allegations start in June.
She's been investigated.
I feel genuinely nervous.
All right, so she's been investigated, but her allegations started in June, but she was already being investigated. So how could it be overtime for sex when you was already being investigated before you dropped these allegations? So I don't know. It ain't. Listen, this is. I guess we could kind of call it there, but I don't know. This is kind of getting crazy. The investigation is going to be ongoing. I'm not sure if he resigned. I think he did. I'm not sure, but if he resigned, he's got himself a lawyer. Maybe he has some money in the bank, and he said, "Nah, we ain't playing." And he is fighting this full tooth and nail. And you know what? I hope he does, because if he did what is alleged that he did, then hopefully he gets found guilty. But if she tried to dump this on him because she was getting investigated and the walls were closing in, and this was her Hail Mary attempt to try to play victim and get out of it and try not to be caught in her overtime scheme. So she's like, hey, I know I'm being investigated for overtime fraud here, but look over here, I'm a victim. It was sex for overtime. That's really why I did it. So this is crazy. This is an ongoing investigation. This is crazy. But it looks like the former chief is coming out swinging, and we're going to have to see how this plays out in New York City. And shout out to everybody. Shout out to all the cops getting to the bag. Shout out to all of y'all, because like I said, I'm not the defund the police guy. I ain't that guy. But this is crazy, and this looks like things are gonna get crazy. Now he did retire. I think he did resign or whatever. Something. I think he did resign. I'm not gonna look it up now because it's already. I just want to make this quick, but we're gonna have to see where this goes. People, be careful, protect yourself, and I'll catch y'all on the next one. We will monitor